My name is Evelyn Foster, and I'm 32 years old. 3 weeks ago, my mother handed me an eviction notice from my childhood home, the Victorian house my grandfather left our family. My sister Rachel had arrived with her husband, claiming they needed family support. Within hours, my room became theirs. Within days, they were measuring the walls for their spa business. "You're single, Evelyn. You work from home. You don't need all this space," Mom said, while Rachel nodded beside her designer luggage. They thought I'd disappear quietly. They were wrong. My grandfather always said this house would protect our family. They just never asked which family member it was designed to protect. Before I tell you what happened next, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. This is how I lost everything and gained it all back. It started on a Tuesday afternoon. I was reconciling accounts in my grandfather's old study when I heard car doors slamming outside. Through the lace curtains, I watched Rachel emerge from a black Mercedes, her Louis Vuitton luggage multiplying on our driveway like expensive rabbits. 6 suitcases, 2 garment bags, a makeup case that probably cost more than my monthly income. James, her husband, stood surveying our Victorian house with the calculating eyes of a real estate appraiser. 5 bedrooms, original hardwood floors, marble countertops my grandfather had installed in the 70s. I knew that look. I'd seen it at estate sales. "Evelyn!" Mom's voice rang through the house. "Come help your sister!" I found them in the foyer, Mom already fussing over Rachel like she'd returned from war instead of San Diego. "What's all this?" I asked. "We're staying for a while," Rachel announced, not meeting my eyes. "James's company is restructuring. We need family support during this transition." Mom clasped her hands together. "Isn't it wonderful? The family together again." "Evelyn won't mind," Mom said, already directing James toward the stairs. "She's so understanding." She didn't look at me once. I watched them colonize the second floor, Rachel's voice carrying down the hallway as she critiqued my grandmother's wallpaper. "Very vintage," she said, which in Rachel speak meant, "needs immediate renovation." That evening at dinner, Rachel pushed her food around the Wedgwood china, her eyes scanning every corner of the dining room. The way she studied the crown molding, the built-in cabinets, the bay windows, it wasn't nostalgia, it was inventory. "This house has such potential," she murmured, and James squeezed her hand across the table. Mom beamed. I said nothing, but I started paying attention. By day 3, boundaries had become suggestions. I found Rachel in my bedroom, sitting at my vanity, using my Tom Ford foundation. The bottle, a birthday gift to myself, was already half empty. "Oh, Evelyn!" She didn't even flinch. "You don't mind, do you? I forgot mine, and we have basically the same skin tone." We didn't. "That's a $70 foundation, Rachel. Don't be petty. We're sisters." She applied another layer, her reflection smirking at mine. Downstairs, James had commandeered the living room. His shoes, still caked with mud, rested on our vintage leather sofa, grandfather's sofa, the one he'd bought after his first big case in 1962. "Comfortable place," James said without looking up from his phone. "Very comfortable." When I mentioned the shoes to Mom, she pulled me into the kitchen. "Evelyn, they're going through a hard time. Don't be selfish." "Selfish? They're destroying—" "It's just stuff, Evelyn. Family is more important than things." But it wasn't just stuff. That evening, I found Rachel in the study, running her fingers along the built-in bookshelves, testing the wood. She had her phone out, taking photos from every angle. "You have too much space for one person anyway," she said, testing my desk chair. "This room alone could be 2 treatment rooms." "Treatment rooms?" She stood quickly. "Nothing, just thinking out loud." That night, I heard them talking through the walls. Measurements, square footage, something about return on investment. I pulled out my laptop and opened a new document. Started typing everything down. Times, dates, conversations. Grandfather had been a lawyer for 40 years. He'd taught me that documentation was protection. I was beginning to understand why. Saturday morning shattered any remaining pretense. I walked into the dining room to find blueprints spread across grandfather's mahogany table. Rachel stood with a contractor, a man in a Carhartt jacket taking notes on an iPad. Mom hovered nearby, her face glowing with excitement. The load-bearing wall stays, the contractor was saying, but we can open up this entire section for the reception area. Reception area? I stepped closer. Rachel didn't even try to hide it anymore. Evelyn, meet Tom. He's helping us envision the transformation. Transformation? Foster Wellness Spa, she announced, sliding a design mock-up toward me. Our Victorian home had been digitally butchered into treatment rooms, a juice bar, and something called a healing garden where grandfather's roses grew. You're planning to turn our house into a business? Not our house, Rachel corrected. The family asset, and it's been underutilized for years. Mom nodded enthusiastically. It's brilliant, Evelyn. Rachel's already secured interest from investors. Investors? James appeared in the doorway, coffee mug in hand. We've raised $200,000 in startup capital. Once Evelyn moves out, we can begin phase 1 immediately. Once Evelyn moves out, Rachel told the contractor, as if I wasn't standing right there. The contractor made another note. Timeline? 30 days, maximum. My stomach dropped, but my voice stayed steady. This house has special conditions. Grandfather's will. Mom's the executor, Rachel cut me off. She's already on board. I looked at Mom. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Grandfather's house has special conditions, I repeated, louder this time. Rachel waved dismissively. Mom checked. Standard inheritance. She has full authority. Did she? I thought about the safe in Grandfather's study, the documents he'd had me witness 2 years before his death, the lawyer's business card tucked behind them. If you say so, I said quietly. Rachel smiled, already turning back to her plans. We're thinking sage green for the meditation room. They never asked why I didn't fight back. They should have. Mom called the family meeting for Sunday at 2 o'clock. The formal dining room, she specified. Everyone should dress appropriately. I've invited your Aunt Martha and Uncle Richard, she told me Thursday evening. And Aunt Diane's coming from Riverside. We need witnesses for important family decisions. Witnesses? To avoid any misunderstandings later. She wouldn't look at me directly, focusing instead on arranging grocery store flowers in grandmother's Waterford vase. Rachel had been busy all week. I heard her on the phone, voice bright and persuasive. Yes, Sunday afternoon, a family announcement. You won't want to miss it. By Saturday, she'd created a presentation. I saw her practicing in the mirror, iPad in hand, rehearsing transitions between slides, professional, polished, like she was pitching to venture capitalists instead of relatives. Sit there, Mom directed me Sunday afternoon, pointing to a chair in the corner, the furthest seat from the head of the table, the children's table position, we used to call it at Thanksgiving. Aunt Martha arrived first, her sharp eyes taking in the new arrangement. Evelyn, dear, why are you sitting all the way over there? Mom's instructions. Martha's eyebrows rose slightly, but she said nothing. The room filled quickly, Uncle Richard with his booming voice, Aunt Diane clutching her purse like a shield, cousins I hadn't seen since grandfather's funeral. Rachel had assembled an audience. James set up a portable screen. Rachel connected her iPad, the Foster Wellness Spa logo already glowing in sage green. Thank you all for coming, Mom began, standing at the head of the table where grandfather used to sit. We have an important family matter to discuss. She paused, gathering herself like an actor before a monologue. We need to discuss Evelyn's living situation. The room went silent. All eyes turned to me. Mom stood at the head of the table, hands clasped like a prosecutor delivering closing arguments. Evelyn is 32 years old, she began. Single. No children. No prospects. Aunt Diane shifted uncomfortably. Uncle Richard studied his coffee cup. She works from home, Mom continued, making it sound like a character flaw. Isolated, antisocial, still living in her childhood bedroom like she's waiting for life to begin. Mom, let me finish. Her voice sharpened. Rachel and James are building something, a business that will revitalize this house and create a legacy. Evelyn is typing on her laptop in her pajamas. Rachel clicked to her first slide. Foster Wellness Spa represents a transformation opportunity. She walked them through it, the revenue projections, the market research, the Instagram-ready renovation plans, our family home reduced to square footage and profit margins. The location is perfect, Rachel continued. The Victorian architecture provides authentic charm. We just need to optimize the space. Which means, Aunt Martha asked. Removing obstacles to efficiency, James answered smoothly. I was the obstacle. It's time Evelyn learned independence, Mom said to approving nods. She's had 32 years of shelter. Rachel and James need this opportunity. But where will Evelyn go? Aunt Martha's question cut through the rehearsed presentation. She's a grown woman, Mom replied. She'll figure it out. She always talks about being independent. Now's her chance. Uncle Richard nodded slowly. Sometimes tough love is necessary. Exactly, Rachel beamed. We're actually doing Evelyn a favor, forcing her to grow. They discussed me like I wasn't there, like I was a problem to be solved, an obstacle to be removed. Aunt Diane mentioned affordable apartments on the east side. Uncle Richard knew someone who needed a roommate. When do you need her out? Aunt Martha asked quietly. The sooner the better, Rachel answered. We have contractors ready to start. Aunt Martha's eyes found mine across the room. Something flickered there, not pity, but recognition. She'd seen this before. So, Mom said, turning to me with the family as her jury, we're offering you a choice. The room held its breath. Rachel's fingers hovered over her iPad screen, ready to advance to the next slide, probably floor plans for my converted bedroom. You can take the guest room in the basement, share a bathroom with whoever's visiting, store your things in the garage. Mom's tone suggested this was generous. Or you can move out, find your own place, start the life you should have started years ago. The guest room is quite comfortable, Aunt Diane offered weakly. I stayed there last Christmas. For 2 nights, I said. My first word since the ambush began. Rachel leaned forward. Honestly, we'd prefer if you're gone by the weekend. The contractors have a tight schedule. The weekend is in 6 days, Rachel. Is that a problem? She tilted her head, performed concern. You work from anywhere, right? That's what you always say, so work from anywhere else. The relatives watched like it was dinner theater. Some nodded along, convinced by the performance. Others, like Aunt Martha, sat very still. What about grandfather's will? I asked. Mom's laugh was sharp. I'm the executor, Evelyn. I know what it says. Do you? Don't be dramatic. She waved her hand dismissively. Your grandfather left the house to the family. I'm family. Rachel's family. We're making a family decision. Without me? You're being included right now. You get to choose. I stood slowly, the room tensed. I need 48 hours, I said. For what? Rachel demanded. To move out. Victory flashed across her face so quickly she couldn't hide it. Mom's shoulders relaxed. James was already texting someone, probably the contractor. That's very mature, Evelyn, Uncle Richard boomed. You're doing the right thing. I walked out without another word. Behind me, I heard the champagne bottle pop. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, you know this feeling. The moment when everyone decides your life for you, and your voice doesn't matter. But sometimes, silence is the most powerful response. I learned that from my grandfather. He used to say, never interrupt an enemy when they're making a mistake. I didn't have enemies that day. I had family, which somehow felt worse. If this resonates with you, please consider subscribing. Your support means everything, and I'd love to hear if you've faced similar family dynamics in the comments. Now let me tell you what I did next. I packed methodically. No tears, no drama, just careful folding and precise labeling. Rachel stationed herself in my doorway, monitoring every item I touched. That lamp stays. It matches the aesthetic. It's from my apartment in college. Mom bought it. I let her have the lamp. In grandfather's study, I opened the safe he'd given me the combination to 3 years ago. When the time comes, he'd said, you'll know. Inside were documents in a leather portfolio, his lawyer's business card clipped to the front. Thomas Barrett, estate planning. What's that? Rachel appeared behind me. Personal papers. Let me see. Tax returns, bank statements. I showed her the top pages, boring financial documents from my freelance work. She lost interest immediately. Don't take anything that belongs to the house. Wouldn't dream of it. I slipped the leather portfolio between my legitimate files. Rachel watched me pack my laptop, my monitors, my ergonomic chair, the tools of my pajama profession. You know this is for the best, she said. You need to grow up. Mom's only trying to help you. I know. My calm unnerved her. She expected tears, begging, maybe anger, not this quiet compliance. That evening, I made a phone call from my car. Mr. Barrett, it's Evelyn Foster, William Foster's granddaughter. I watched the house from the street, Rachel's silhouette moving past windows. Yes, it's time. They've asked me to leave. Sunday, 2 o'clock, with witnesses. Yes, I have everything. I hung up and sent a single email. Subject line, as discussed. Then I went back inside and continued packing. Take only what's yours, Rachel reminded me, eyeing my boxes. I always do, I replied. She missed the implication entirely. Rachel turned my moving day into a social media event. Transformation Day 1, she announced to her phone, live streaming as I carried boxes to my rental truck. Look at this gorgeous Victorian space just waiting to bloom. Mom stood on the porch, directing foot traffic like a general. Careful with the walls, Evelyn. We don't want scratches, eh? The neighbors had gathered. Mrs. Henderson from next door stood at her fence, iPhone raised. Mr. Yamamoto walked his dog past the house 3 times, each loop slower than the last. Rachel had made sure everyone knew. The Foster house was entering a new era. We're bringing wellness to Riverside, Rachel gushed to her audience. This historic home will finally reach its potential. James had already marked the walls with painter's tape, outlining where demolition would begin. My childhood height measurements would be the first to go. Oh, Evelyn! Rachel called out, camera swinging toward me. Say goodbye to the viewers. I set down my box, looked directly at her phone. Grandfather always said this house protects family. Isn't that sweet? Rachel's laugh tinkled like breaking glass. But we're updating that protection to include financial security, right, Mom? Absolutely, Mom agreed, though she wouldn't meet my eyes. Progress requires change. Mrs. Henderson took another photo, then another. She wasn't smiling. I loaded the last box as Rachel filmed the empty room. Look at this space! I'm envisioning a couple's massage suite with original hardwood ambiance. Finally, Mom announced loudly enough for the neighbors to hear. This house will generate income instead of just consuming it. Evelyn was basically a charity case, James added, not quite under his breath. Mrs. Henderson's camera clicked again. No hard feelings, though, Rachel chirped to her live stream. Family is about supporting each other's dreams. She aimed the camera at me one more time. Any final words, Evelyn? See you soon, I said. Her smile flickered, just for a second. What's that supposed to mean? But I was already driving away. I returned one last time to leave my keys. The marble counter where grandfather used to leave me notes was bare except for a spa brochure. Foster Wellness, where family healing begins. I set the keys down slowly, their metallic click echoing in the kitchen. Above the mantel, grandfather's portrait watched everything. He'd commissioned it after winning his biggest case, a family trust dispute that made precedent in California courts. In the painting, his eyes held that same knowing look he'd had when explaining contingency clauses to me. Admiring your past? Rachel appeared, already dressed for success in her Lululemon ensemble. "We're keeping the portrait. Adds gravitas to the wellness brand. Established family tradition sounds better than new business." He'd have opinions about that. Well, he's not here to voice them. She picked up the keys, weighing them in her palm. "No hard feelings, Evelyn. It's just business." "Is it? What else would it be?" "Family." She laughed. "Family is business. Mom taught me that. Grandfather taught me differently. And look where that got you." She gestured around the empty kitchen. 32 and starting over." I looked at the portrait again. "He always said this house protects family." "You keep saying that." Rachel's voice sharpened with irritation. "Like it means something." "Doesn't it? Houses don't protect people, Evelyn. Money does. Influence does. Success does." She jangled the keys. "You had 32 years to figure that out." Mom appeared in the doorway. "Is she gone?" "Just leaving," I said. Neither of them said goodbye. But as I walked out, I heard Rachel ask, "What did she mean by 'see you soon'?" Mom's response was too quiet to hear. 3 days later, they'd understand. The registered letter arrived at 10:15 Wednesday morning. I know the exact time because Rachel posted about it immediately. "Legal drama at the Foster house. Stay tuned." 20 minutes later, my phone exploded. 47 calls from Rachel, 12 from Mom, 6 from James. I let them all go to voicemail. The texts came in waves. "What did you do?" "Evelyn, call me immediately." "This isn't funny. We need to talk now." Mom's voicemail was barely controlled panic. "Evelyn, there's been some kind of mistake. Barrett and Associates sent a letter about the estate, about conditions. You need to call me back." Rachel's was less composed. "I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but..." I turned off my phone and made tea in my temporary apartment. The same Earl Grey grandfather used to drink during his big cases. "Let them sweat," he'd say. "Anxiety reveals truth." That afternoon, Mrs. Henderson sent me an email. Just one line. "Your grandfather would be proud." Attached were 17 time-stamped photos from moving day. Rachel measuring walls, James marking demolition points, Mom announcing the business transformation to assembled neighbors. Evidence. By evening, the family group chat had devolved into chaos. Mom: "Has anyone reached Evelyn?" Aunt Martha: "What's happening with the house?" Rachel: "Nothing. Minor paperwork issue." Uncle Richard: "The letter mentioned conditional clauses." Rachel: "It's nothing." James had gone silent after his Google searches started auto-completing to "grantor retained trust violations" and "conditional inheritance lawsuits." At 9 p.m., Mom sent one final text. "Mr. Barrett wants to meet Friday. Your presence is mandatory." I replied with one word: "Understood." Rachel's response was immediate. "What did you do?" I didn't answer. The documents in grandfather's safe had already said everything necessary. Thomas Barrett didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Mrs. Foster," his voice carried the authority of 40 years in estate law, "I'm calling regarding your father's estate and recent events at the property." I could hear Mom's sharp intake of breath through the phone. She'd put him on speaker. Rachel and James were definitely listening. "What recent events?" Mom's attempt at innocence fooled no one. "I've been informed that Evelyn Foster has been removed from the residence." "She chose to leave. We offered her the guest room." "After presenting her with an ultimatum in front of assembled family members, correct?" Silence. "Mrs. Foster, are you familiar with Section 7 of your father's will?" "I'm the executor. Of course I'm familiar with..." "Then you'll recall the conditional clauses regarding his eldest grandchild." More silence. I imagined Rachel frantically searching through documents they'd never properly read. "What conditional clauses?" James's voice, trying to sound authoritative but landing on nervous. "Mr. Williams, is it? I don't believe you're a beneficiary, so I'm not at liberty to discuss specifics with you." "I'm Rachel's husband." "Congratulations, that doesn't grant you legal standing in this matter." Barrett's tone could have frozen fire. Mrs. Foster, we need to meet immediately. My office Friday, 2 p.m. Bring all parties currently residing at the property. Is that necessary? Unless you'd prefer I file the breach notification with the court directly. Breach? Rachel's voice cracked. What breach? Miss Foster, I assume. The younger Miss Foster. Friday, 2 p.m. The elder Miss Foster's presence is mandatory. She doesn't even live here anymore, Rachel protested. That's precisely the problem, Barrett replied. The line went dead. My phone rang immediately. Mom. Evelyn, what did you do? Nothing. Don't lie to me. I'm not. Grandfather did something. 2 years before he died. I just witnessed it. Witnessed what? You'll find out Friday. I hung up. Let them spend the next 36 hours drowning in their own anxiety. Grandfather always said, documentation is preparation. Timing is everything. Mom tore the house apart, looking for the will. I knew because Aunt Martha called me, whispering like a spy. Your mother's gone mad, Evelyn. She's pulling papers from every drawer, every cabinet. Rachel's crying. The family group chat documented the meltdown in real time. Uncle Richard. Linda, do you need help? Mom. Looking for documents, no big deal. Aunt Martha. She means she can't find William's original will. Rachel. We have copies. Aunt Martha. Copies aren't originals, dear. By Thursday night, James had consulted 3 different legal websites and 2 Reddit forums. His search history would have been comedy if it wasn't so desperate. Can conditional inheritance be challenged? Grandfather clause loopholes. How to break a trust fund. Rachel called me every hour. The messages evolved from angry to pleading. Evelyn, this is ridiculous. We're family. Let's talk. Please, I have investors. I borrowed against the house renovation. Evelyn, please. $200,000. Mom's texts were shorter. Your grandfather loved both of you equally. Did he? I thought about the nights I'd spent reading to him when his eyes got bad. Rachel visiting twice a year, always with her hand out. Mom sighing about my lack of ambition, while grandfather smiled and said, Evelyn has hidden depths, Linda. Finally, Aunt Martha called again. William did mention something once, she said carefully. About protection. What kind of protection? He said the house would always shelter the one who sheltered him. She paused. That was you, wasn't it? Those last 5 years? Yes. He saw things clearly, your grandfather. Saw how Linda favored Rachel. Saw Rachel's greed. Saw your quiet strength. Aunt Martha, Friday will be interesting, won't it? Yes. Good. It's about time. She hung up, but not before I heard her murmur, William, you clever bastard. The tables were about to turn in ways they never imagined. You see, my grandfather was a strategic man who spent 40 years in corporate law. He knew family dynamics better than anyone. He saw who showed up, who cared, and who was only there for the inheritance. If you're enjoying this story of patient justice, please hit that like button. And if you've ever had a relative who saw through the family politics, who protected you from beyond the grave, share your story below. Now, let's get to the meeting that changed everything. Barrett and Associates occupied the top floor of a building that whispered old money. Mahogany panels, Persian rugs, floor-to-ceiling law books that had decided precedents. I arrived first, wearing my navy suit, the one grandfather had bought me for my college graduation. Dress for the battle you're fighting, he'd said. Thomas Barrett greeted me with a firm handshake. Evelyn, you look like him, you know. Same eyes, same patience. Thank you for this. I'm just executing his wishes. He held up a leather folder. Your grandfather was very specific. Mom burst through the door at 2:03, Rachel and James trailing like disheveled peacocks. Rachel's designer dress couldn't hide her sleepless nights. James's cologne couldn't mask his fear. Evelyn, what have you done? Mom accused before even sitting. Nothing. I've done nothing except leave when asked. This is about money, isn't it? Rachel's voice pitched high. You want the house. I never said that. Barrett cleared his throat. The sound commanded silence. Please be seated. The conference table could have held 20. We clustered at one end, the leather folder between us like a loaded weapon. Barrett adjusted his Mont Blanc pen, opened the folder with ceremonial precision. Before we begin, I need to confirm, Evelyn Foster was asked to vacate the property at 1247 Riverside Drive this past Sunday? She was given a choice, Mom started. A yes or no, please. Yes. And this request was made in front of witnesses? Mom's jaw tightened. Yes. Multiple witnesses who can verify that Miss Evelyn Foster was given an ultimatum to either accept significantly reduced accommodation or leave the family home. It wasn't like that. Mrs. Linda Foster, yes or no? Yes. Barrett made a note. Then we have a problem. He pulled out a document. The original will, the real one, with Section 7 highlighted in yellow. Barrett's voice filled the conference room with the measured cadence of legal prophecy. This is the last will and testament of William Foster, executed 2 years before his death, with codicils added 6 months prior to his passing. Mom shifted. I have a copy. You have pages 1 through 12. This is pages 1 through 18, including Section 7. Conditional provisions for protection of eldest grandchild. The room went arctic. Barrett continued reading. Having observed certain family dynamics that concern me deeply, I hereby establish the following irrevocable conditions. Rachel grabbed James's hand. If my eldest grandchild, Evelyn Foster, is forced, coerced, or pressured to leave the family residence at 1247 Riverside Drive before reaching the age of 35, Mom's face drained of color. Whether through direct eviction, hostile environment, or ultimatum? Rachel's breathing quickened. Then all assets of my estate, including the residence, all financial accounts, and investment portfolios, shall immediately transfer to an irrevocable trust. No, Mom whispered. With Evelyn Foster as sole beneficiary and trustee. That can't be legal, Rachel's voice cracked. Barrett looked up. It's ironclad. Your grandfather spent 3 months perfecting the language. He continued. Furthermore, any family member who participates in, encourages, or benefits from such coercion shall forfeit all current and future claims to the estate, including monthly stipends, executor fees, and residual inheritances. Mom's monthly $3,000. Gone. Her $50,000 yearly executor fee. Gone. Rachel's future inheritance. Gone. This is insane, James stood up. You can't punish people for family decisions. Mr. Williams, William Foster could place any legal conditions on his estate he wished. He chose to protect Evelyn. But why? Rachel's question came out as a wail. Barrett pulled out another document. He explains here. The letter was dated 3 months before grandfather's death. Barrett read, My eldest granddaughter has cared for me without complaint, without expectation, without fail. While others visited when convenient, Evelyn was present. While others asked what I could give them, Evelyn asked what I needed. This house is her sanctuary, as she was mine. Anyone who tries to take that from her will lose everything. No, that can't be right. Rachel turned to Mom. Tell me that's not legal. Tell me. Mom couldn't speak. She knew. The precision, the witnesses, the documentation. It was perfect. You orchestrated this, Rachel accused, mascara streaming. You planned it. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone, you planned it. Barrett nodded. I connected to the conference room screen. Exhibit A, Rachel's live stream from Sunday. There she was, in high definition, announcing the spa transformation while I carried boxes in the background. Once Evelyn moves out, we can begin immediately. Exhibit B, the family meeting. My phone had been recording from my pocket. Every word of Mom's public humiliation, every relative's agreement that I needed to leave, the ultimatum, witnessed and documented. You recorded us? Mom's outrage felt hollow. Grandfather taught me to document everything. Exhibit C, Barrett added, sliding papers across the table. Emails from Mrs. Linda Foster to various family members discussing, quote, removing Evelyn from the equation. Mom went white. How did you? You CC'd me on one by accident. Aunt Martha's voice came from the speakerphone. I forwarded it to Thomas months ago, just in case. Martha, Mom gasped. William was my brother, Linda. I promised to protect his wishes. Barrett produced more evidence. Mrs. Henderson provided photographs with timestamps. The contractor's estimate, showing planned demolition beginning in Evelyn's room. James Williams's loan documents, using the house as collateral for a business loan. Illegally, I might add, since he has no ownership stake. That's private, James protested. Not when you post about it on LinkedIn, I said quietly. Screenshot for posterity. The final blow came from Barrett himself. And this morning, I received this. A video file. Grandfather, 2 years before his death, sitting in this very office. If you're watching this, his voice filled the room, then someone tried to force Evelyn from her home. I'm not surprised. Linda, you've always favored Rachel. Rachel, you've always been greedy. Evelyn, you've always been kind. This house is yours now. You earned it through love, not manipulation. Rachel collapsed into her chair. Evelyn, this house was always meant to be your sanctuary. The video ended. The trust activated the moment you left the property under duress, Barrett said. It's done. Barrett clicked play on the full video. Grandfather appeared again, sitting in his study, my study now. The same portrait visible behind him that Rachel had planned to keep for gravitas. My dear family, he began, his voice still commanding despite his age. If you're watching this, then exactly what I predicted has happened. Mom flinched. Linda, you're wondering how I knew. 50 years of marriage taught me your patterns. You've always chosen the child who flatters you, who makes you feel successful by proxy. Rachel learned early that performance earned preference. Rachel's sob caught in her throat. Rachel, you visited me 11 times in 5 years. Each visit included a request for money. You measured my rooms while I was still breathing in them. Did you think I was blind? James reached for Rachel's hand. She pulled away. Evelyn, Grandfather's voice softened. You read to me when my eyes failed. You learned my medications when my memory slipped. You never asked for anything except stories about grandmother. You were there at 3 a.m. when I was afraid, and at 3 p.m. when I was lonely. I couldn't stop the tears then. For 5 years you were my constant. While your mother criticized your career, you were managing my finances. While Rachel mocked your single status, you were holding my hand through chemotherapy. You sacrificed your 20s to ensure I didn't die alone. I didn't know, Mom whispered. You never said. The video continued. Linda, you never asked. You assumed Evelyn lived here because she had nowhere else to go. The truth? She had a job offer in New York, a relationship in Seattle, opportunities everywhere. She chose me. The room felt airless. So yes, I protected her. The house, the money, they're shields against exactly what happened this week. Evelyn, you were my family when family meant sacrifice, not selfies. Grandfather leaned forward in the video, his eyes sharp as the lawyer he'd always been. To those who forced her out, you've revealed yourselves. The house was never about walls and rooms. It was about discovering who deserved it. He smiled then, that knowing smile from the portrait. Evelyn, sweetheart, welcome home. The video ended. Rachel's sobs filled the silence. Barrett laid out the papers with surgical precision. The trust takes effect immediately. Evelyn, you now control all assets. All? Mom's voice barely registered. The house, the investment portfolio worth $1.3 million, the savings accounts, everything. But my stipend? Terminated. You violated Section 7. I'm the executor. Were. Evelyn assumes that role now. Rachel pulled out her phone with shaking hands. The loan. I borrowed $200,000 against the renovation. Without ownership, that's fraud, Barrett said simply. The bank will demand immediate repayment. I don't have it. I already paid the contractor $50,000 as a deposit. That's unfortunate. James finally spoke. Will sue. Undue influence, mental incapacity. Barrett actually smiled. Mr. Foster was evaluated by 3 psychiatrists before executing this will. Video recorded, notarized. Try it. This is cruel. Mom stood unsteady. Evelyn, you're destroying your sister. I didn't take out a fraudulent loan. I didn't plan to demolish grandfather's house. I didn't live stream my eviction. But we're family. Yes, I said quietly. We are. The next hour was paperwork. Asset transfers, account closures, the systematic dismantling of everything Mom and Rachel had assumed was theirs. Rachel's phone rang constantly. The contractor, the bank, investors who'd seen her confident live streams and wanted updates. What do I tell them? She begged. The truth, I suggested. That you tried to steal something that wasn't yours. Evelyn, please, I'll lose everything. You already did, 3 days ago, when you measured my room for a massage table while I was still living in it. Mom tried one last manipulation. Your grandfather wouldn't want this. Barrett pulled out one final document. Actually, Mrs. Foster, he was quite specific. He read, I anticipate Linda will claim this isn't what I'd want. On the contrary, this is exactly what I want. Justice isn't cruel, it's just uncomfortable for those who've avoided it. The meeting ended with signatures. Mine, assuming control. Theirs, acknowledging notification. As we left, Rachel whispered, Where will we go? The guest room is available, I said, or you can move out. Her face crumbled as she recognized her own words. Your choice. They came back that night, all 3 of them, standing on the porch of what was now legally my house. Rachel had changed into jeans and a college sweatshirt, the costume of humility. Mom clutched her purse like a life preserver. James had lost his swagger entirely. Please, Rachel started. Can we talk? I let them in. Grandfather would have wanted that much. They sat in the living room they'd been redecorating in their minds. Rachel's eyes kept finding the spots where she'd planned mirrors, lighting, retail displays. I'll give you 50% of the spa profits, she began. What spa? If you let us proceed. With demolishing grandfather's house? No. 30% and you can keep your room. It's all my room now, Rachel. She shifted tactics. I'll be ruined. The loan, the investors, I'll have to declare bankruptcy. That's a consequence, not my problem. Mom played her card. My health, Evelyn, the stress, my heart medication, is covered by Medicare. I checked. You checked? Her outrage was real this time. I've been managing grandfather's medical bills for years. I know exactly what insurance covers. James tried legal threats again. This won't hold up in court. Barrett says it will. We'll find another lawyer. With what money? That silenced him. Rachel broke completely then. What do you want? An apology? Fine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I was the favorite. I'm sorry Mom loved me more. I'm sorry you were invisible. I was never invisible. Grandfather saw me. Mrs. Henderson saw me. Aunt Martha saw me. The only people who couldn't see me were sitting at that dining room table, planning my eviction. So this is revenge? This is grandfather's will, literally. Mom stood. You're enjoying this. No, but I'm not suffering through it either. That's new for me. I made them an offer. 30 days in the guest house out back. Time to find apartments, jobs, reality. After that, you're gone. The guest house is tiny. It's shelter. That's more than you offered me. They had no choice. I drew up a rental agreement, month to month. The guest house for $800, below market rate, but not free. Rent? Mom stared at the paper. You're charging us rent? You wanted me to learn independence. Consider this your tutorial. The terms were simple but firm. No business operations on the property. No renovations or alterations. No social media posts about the house. Monthly family dinners, if they could be civil. You're controlling us, Rachel accused. I'm establishing boundaries. Grandfather's lawyer helped me understand the difference. And if we refuse? Then you refuse. The choice is yours. It always was. They signed. What else could they do? Rachel's apartment had been given up for the spa dream. Mom had assumed she'd always have the house. James had burned bridges boasting about their coming success. I gave them keys to the guest house, 60 square feet of humility, the main house is off limits without invitation, I explained. Your mail can go to the box out front. You're really going to treat us like tenants? Mom's disbelief would have been funny if it wasn't so sad. You treated me like an inconvenience, which is worse. That first week, I watched them struggle with the space they deemed generous enough for me. Rachel's designer clothes overwhelmed the single closet. James's golf clubs lived in the car. Mom's china collection stayed in storage. This is temporary, I heard Rachel tell herself each morning. But temporary stretched on. The bank demanded their money. Investors pulled out. The contractor kept the deposit and sued for breach of contract. Meanwhile, I restored grandfather's study to its original state, hung his diplomas back where Rachel had planned floating shelves, put his photo albums where she'd envisioned product displays. The house exhaled, settling back into itself. You could help us, Mom said at our first mandatory dinner. I am. I'm teaching you what grandfather taught me, how to live within your means. This isn't living, it's surviving. Welcome to what you wished for me. How does it feel? She couldn't answer. Rachel had to post the retraction. The bank insisted. Fraud charges hung over her head like a sword. I need to clarify some misunderstandings about Foster Wellness Spa, she began, reading from her phone to her followers. Her voice shook. The project has been cancelled. The comments came instantly. But you were so excited. What happened to the transformation? Didn't you already start demolition? There were legal complications with the property, Rachel continued. I didn't have the authority I thought I did. She couldn't say she'd tried to steal her sister's home, but everyone knew. Small towns have telepathy for scandal. At the neighborhood block party, Mrs. Henderson made sure everyone heard the truth. That poor Evelyn, she said loudly enough for 3 yards to hear. Caring for her grandfather all those years, then nearly thrown out by her own mother. Thank God William protected her. Mom faced her own reckoning at church. Linda, we heard about the house situation, Pastor William said carefully. How difficult for everyone. It's a misunderstanding. Is it? Because Martha tells a different story. Aunt Martha had become my unexpected champion, setting records straight at every book club, coffee date, and grocery store encounter. William knew exactly what he was doing, she'd tell anyone who'd listen. He saw which grandchild actually loved him versus which one loved his assets. The reversal was complete when the local paper ran a story. Victorian home preserved after failed spa conversion. They interviewed me about maintaining historical properties. Rachel's name appeared once, in the context of misguided commercial development. You've ruined my reputation, Rachel accused at our second family dinner. You live-streamed your own downfall, I just declined to stop you. She deleted all her social media that night. The influencer dreams died with her passwords. Thanksgiving arrived with unexpected peace. I'd restored the dining room completely. Grandfather's table gleamed under grandmother's chandelier. The china was the Wedgwood pattern from their wedding. Even the tablecloth was the one grandmother had embroidered. Mom arrived first, carrying a pie from the grocery store. I didn't know if... You're welcome here, Mom. She'd aged in 6 months. The salon treatments had stopped. The designer clothes had been sold. She worked part-time now, receptionist at a dental office. Humbling work for someone who'd managed an estate, poorly, but still. Rachel and James came together but barely touched. The stress had carved distance between them. She'd taken a job at a department store, retail, the thing she'd mocked me for avoiding. James sold insurance. "The house looks beautiful," Rachel admitted, and I heard real appreciation, not calculation. "It looks like it did when grandfather was alive." "I remember now," she said quietly. "Christmas when we were kids, before I got so ambitious? Lost." We ate in relative peace. No one mentioned the spa. No one mentioned the money. When Mom started to criticize my stuffing, she caught herself. "It's good," she said instead. "Different from mine, but good. Progress." After dinner, I showed them something. Grandfather's journal, the entry from Rachel's 16th birthday. "Rachel came today. She wanted money for a car. When I offered to teach her to drive in mine first, she said it was too old. She'll learn eventually that new doesn't mean better, and old doesn't mean worthless. I hope she learns before it costs her everything." Rachel cried then, real tears, not performance. He knew? He knew everything. He just loved us anyway, differently, but still love. "And you?" Mom asked. "Do you love us?" "I'm learning to. From a safe distance, with clear boundaries." It was the best I could offer. It was enough. A year later, I found the letter grandfather left specifically for me. Barrett had been instructed to deliver it only after the dust settled. "My dearest Evelyn, if you're reading this, then you've survived the storm. I knew you would. You have something Rachel never learned and Linda never valued. Patient strength. The house was never about punishing them. It was about protecting you. You gave me 5 years of your life, not out of duty or expectation of reward, but out of love. Do you know how rare that is? I watched you sacrifice dates to read to me, skip career opportunities to manage my medications, turn down adventures to ensure I wasn't alone. You never complained, never made me feel like a burden. Your mother saw weakness in your kindness. Rachel saw opportunity in your silence. They were both wrong. You were building something they couldn't see. Character. The will's conditions weren't just about the house. They were about revealing truth. Linda needed to see her favoritism. Rachel needed to face her greed. You needed to learn your worth. But here's the real secret, sweetheart. The house doesn't protect you. You protect the house. You always have. You're not its resident. You're its guardian. Be firm but not cruel. Be generous but not foolish. And remember, family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about who shows up at 3 a.m. when you're afraid. You showed up. All my love, grandfather. I keep the letter in his desk drawer. Sometimes, when Mom and Rachel struggle with boundaries or test limits, I read it again. They're still in the guest house. The rent's never late. The dinners continue. We're building something new from the ashes of what was. It's not perfect, but it's honest. And that's enough. Thank you for joining me on this journey of standing up for yourself when family tries to tear you down. If you've ever been the scapegoat who became the guardian of family legacy, I see you. Please subscribe if this story resonated with you and share your own experiences with family boundaries in the comments. Have you ever had someone protect you from beyond the grave? Or had to learn that no is a complete sentence? Remember, sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't money or property. It's the wisdom to protect yourself and the courage to use it. Until next time, stay strong.